This is Binghamton Now on News Radio 1290 WNBF Binghamton and WNBF.com.
I'm Bob Joseph. This is Binghamton Now. For Tuesday, July 30th, 2024. So much to talk about, and we will over the next 3 hours. And you are invited to join us by calling 607-772-1290. And away we go with another show. Thank you for joining us. We'll see what happens today. Anything theoretically could happen. And if it does, you'll be able to hear live along with your host. Who knows? Longtime listeners know the only thing we really have in the beautiful WNBF studio is a microphone and a telephone. They've ripped out the turntables, the reel-to-reel tape machines, the units that used to play tape cartridges. I have a microphone and a telephone. That's all I need. That's all I need. That's all you need to participate. So by all means, feel free. Topping local news today, Binghamton Railroad Bridge will close. Busy street for months, as reported at WNBF.com. The Jarvis Street Railroad Bridge is about to be rehabilitated, as in, let's repair it before any of those giant chunks of concrete fall on someone or smash someone's windshield. So it is time. So that section of Jarvis Street will be closed probably between now and mid-November. I had an opportunity to speak with Robert Garrett, who's the project foreman for a company based in North Dakota. Vector Construction has been hired by Norfolk Southern to fix this underpass. Here's a little bit of our conversation held at Jarvis Street Underpass.
This is the Jarvis Street Railroad Underpass, owned by Norfolk Southern. Connects Binghamton's west side with the First Ward. Vector Construction, based out of North Dakota, is starting a major rehab project at this underpass. It's getting underway this week. Robert Garrett is overseeing the project. We were talking with you not that long ago over at Glenwood Avenue, a project very similar to this. So tell us a little bit, basically, what's going to be done over the coming weeks.
Columns are going to get fixed. Some of the sidewalk is going to get redone, too, and the top of the walls. That's the reason why we want the closure on the street. Watch out for pedestrians and the public coming through, driving through, so we can get the top walls and the sidewalks done. Get it all painted up for you.
All right, so it'll be closed to vehicular traffic on this part of Jarvis between Clinton and Main Street. Will you be able to keep one sidewalk open while the job is done?
Sidewalks will keep open. We'll make sure we divert any kind of sidewalk traffic to either side, one side or the other. If we're working on one side, we'll let the public walk through.
How long do you think this work will take?
I have no clue. It's my first day here. I got to get into it. And once I get into it, I can wrap my head around it. We can figure out a game plan and a schedule.
Bottom line, when you're done, this is going to look fairly similar to the way Glenwood Avenue looked after the job was completed.
100%. We do the best job in town.
Thank you for chatting with us.
Thank you.
Enjoy your construction season back in Binghamton.
Thank you.
That's a long time from North Dakota to Binghamton, but Robert Garrett is back with a crew of workers who are getting underway with the repair work. Not a moment too soon, in the opinion of some. People were telling me that chunks of concrete were falling last week. A police officer stopped by Monday afternoon as we were doing our reporting on this project, and he asked me, wait, are they closing this down because of all the concrete that fell last week? No, this was in the works. But the timing is propitious. So if you want to see a little bit more, it's actually kind of instructive to take a look at the pictures at WNBF.com if you want to have a better appreciation of what this structure looks like. It doesn't look that nice. Such is life. Nothing looks very good if you don't take care of it. So now the overdue repairs are going to happen. So go ahead and take a look for yourself at our website, WNBF.com, and we'll keep you posted on that. And other railroad bridges before. See, the last thing you want is a structural failure. Or maybe not a structural failure, maybe just a big chunk of concrete to fall on some kid. Let's say I have seen people with their young children in baby carriages walking under these railroad bridges in Binghamton. I always think, well, I guess the odds are that you or your child aren't going to be hit by a piece of falling concrete, but you never know. I mean, just as a lot of people say when they're standing out in the middle of a thunderstorm, that there's little real concern you're going to be hit by lightning and killed. But every year it does happen to some people, so it's kind of like, in its own way, it's kind of like the lotto. So glad to see the work is being done over there, and we'll follow that story. We have, of course, other news for you. We also did an update on the Washington Avenue improvement projects, which has been going on since April, moving from north to south. So now the crews are focusing on the area of Washington Avenue closest to UE High School. Not next to the school, but just to the north of the high school. So that block is basically out of service. I think for the most part, they're doing utility work. And we did an update on our website, so if you want to see what's going on there, it's amazing how much work is being done throughout the Triple Cities. Well, actually, all around Broome and Tioga counties, I'm pretty impressed at how much construction is underway. Road work, other infrastructure work. So it's nice to see. It's inconvenient, I know. People are saying, well, I don't like being detoured. I don't like being detoured either. On the other hand, you're going to have to put up with a little inconvenience while roads and bridges and other infrastructure projects are underway. So we'll tell them to work quicker. Well, you tell them to work quicker. They're working as fast as they can. It's 9:19 at WNBF with Bob Joseph. I'll call myself now the voice of Binghamton, VOB. Bob Joseph, the voice of Binghamton, on News Radio, WNBF 92.1 FM, 1290 AM, streaming at WNBF.com. Our little summer place, my little quiet island on the talk deck. WNBF, good morning.
Good morning, Bob Joseph.
Hi, how are you?
I'm all right. How about yourself?
Good, you're on the air. So.
Am I?
I guess you are, so choose your words with care.
Thanks for the heads up.
You don't want a hot mic moment. Wouldn't that be funny? Oh, Bob, you just put Karen Sweet O'Neill on from KSO Insurance Solutions, the sponsor of this segment, and you didn't give her a heads up that you're actually on the air, so you see how that went.
Yeah, it wouldn't be good for you.
No, me talking about pizza recipes and my 2025 Speedy recipe. I can't unveil it now because it's still in the testing stages. I'm doing tests and research with a focus group.
Are you going to do the contest?
Not this year, 2025.
Ah.
So I could tell you more, except we're on the air, and I have some proprietary techniques that I'll be employing as I go for the gold in the 2025 Speedy Olympics. So something for everyone to look forward to in about a year.
There you go. You don't want to give away your secret.
No. No. I've worked on this for decades, and now we're at a point where we plan to roll it out in August 2025. So it's something that everybody will agree on is perhaps the best Speedy in the history of Speedies.
Okay. That is this weekend, isn't it? Speedy Fest.
Yeah, I guess it is.
Yeah.
I
hope we have good weather.
Oh, it'll be great.
Oh, so the balloons can get up. Oh, man.
So, speaking of Speedy, so I'm sitting around on a Monday evening having my traditional Monday evening Speedy. That's what I do during the summer. On the deck, having a Speedy. Finish my Speedy. And I hear the telltale sounds of whooshing, which means those are balloons.
Correct.
When you hear whooshing, it's either a 737 MAX, and that's the type of whoosh you don't want to hear, especially when a door plug lands in your backyard. Oh, you missed the dogs.
The dogs don't like hot air balloons.
Well, Daisy didn't mind. It was weird. No, she slept right through it.
The only thing they didn't like.
Really? It was the weirdest thing. Well, not the weirdest thing, but one of the weirdest things. So I hear the telltale whooshing of the balloons. At first, I thought it was just a single balloon.
Yeah.
And then it turns out I saw a second one. And then as I was recording with my phone, I noticed there's a third one. So they had 3 hot air balloons. I bet they were getting set for the Speedy Fest. It was a great night for a balloon ride.
Yeah.
Yeah. I wish I
practice run.
Yeah. Have you been on a balloon?
I've been on a tethered balloon. And that was enough to let me know I'm not going on one that's not.
Really?
Yeah.
Well, here's the thing. Just between you and me.
Let me put it that way.
Yeah, no, between you and me, I'm afraid of heights. But I went on a hot air balloon ride a few years ago. And I had a little bit of trepidation because I thought, well, if we get more than 4 feet off the ground, I'll probably lose it. Some people would say, wait, you'll probably lose it. You lost it years ago. And it's, so I'm, as we gain altitude, I'm thinking, wait, this is the most fun I've ever had.
Yeah, you either love it or you don't.
Yeah. And we went on a balloon ride. I think it lasted about 45 minutes.
And
it's spectacular.
Yeah, I have a lot of friends that do it, and they absolutely love it.
Yeah, but I respect those who choose not to. I never, if it's something that you don't think is right for you, I mean, if you have real concerns, then I certainly wouldn't force the issue. But sometime in the future, if you think about it, because I'll say hot air balloons generally are quite safe. I mean, like life. Every day in life, I drive here to the station. And speaking of that, I was almost in a deadly head-on crash yesterday.
Oh, my goodness.
Yeah, on East Main Street in Endwell. You know how they have the center lane that's dedicated only for turning?
Yeah.
Well, some errant truck driver parked his tractor trailer on East Main Street, so buses and cars and trucks were using the center lane, which is a turn lane, only a turn lane. They were using it to pass this parked tractor trailer. So I'm preparing to make a left turn into a business. I'll just say a business that sells Speedies. I won't go any further because of HIPAA.
I know where you are.
Yeah, everybody does. So this guy comes at me, going in the eastbound direction, he almost slammed into me, Karen.
Wow, that's scary.
Oh, and I thought, for a second there, my life flashed before my eyes, and it was quite amusing. I wish we could have recorded that for a video. It was great, seeing my life flash before my eyes. Unfortunately, he opted not to slam directly into me, but it was pretty close.
Thank goodness.
Yeah, and I don't know how fast he was going. The speed limit there is 40, but in my professional judgment, I say he was going a lot faster than 40, but hey, whatever. He had his fun. I had my heart attack, and so we're
everybody's good.
Everybody's fine, and it gave me a little story to tell and burn up 90 seconds of precious broadcast time. So there. Anyway.
Well, yeah, thank you.
Yeah. People are saying, but what does this have to do with the price of tea in Halstead? And exactly. Good point.
Well, you know what, though, Bob? This is a good, your story was kind of a good segue into what we're going to talk about tomorrow. And that is the incredible increasing car insurance rates that are happening to people.
Oh, that's right.
Oh, my goodness. I mean,
that's timely.
It was timely. So, and it's not the type of insurance that we do. We don't, provide automobile insurance or property and casualty, homeowners. But it's something important to talk about. And one of the reasons is because, when you get an increase of, $600 semi-annual or annually, then you better start looking at what your coverage entails, and you might want to shop that product. So we're going to talk about that and just talk about, how you can look at your particular situation, your coverages, and maybe get a break by just doing a little homework and getting a rate quote from different sources. Not from us, but we do a lot of referrals in that area.
Good, because just between you and me, and I'm slow to anger. I'm one of the seriously, one of the calmest people you'll meet today. But when I get my insurance bill, in fact, I just paid my insurance online last night. How coincidental. Now, fortunately, Monday was a very good day for me. So even though my insurance, because I'm dumb, instead of paying it every 6 months, I'm dumb and I pay it monthly. So they, as a convenience to them, they tack on an extra $4 every time. I should have just paid the whole 6 month thing and be done with it and save the whatever $25 I lose, because they think it's convenient to charge me, for monthly billing.
Right.
So since Monday was a good day, I let it slip this time. But I'm thinking as I'm punching in the numbers on my handy, secure computer, I'm thinking to myself, a year ago or 6 months ago, it wasn't this high. All I knew was that it was substantially higher. I didn't drag out the numbers to figure out the percent. I'm saying I haven't had a claim with these people.
Right.
I don't crash my car, although sadly, a couple decades ago. Yeah, well, that would have. Yeah, but the way that would have happened, dead men file no claims, so it would have. But anyway, yeah, to your point, I'm thinking, well, and I'll tell you why, and you'll probably talk more about this tomorrow, about the reasons for the rapidly rising car insurance premiums. It's people like that guy, the guy who was coming at me at 55 miles an hour in the center turn lane on East Main Street. It's people who drive like that drive up the insurance rates for good people like you and me.
Well, I'll tell you what, it's got something to do with it, and just the overall insurance claims nationwide and how it is just permeating every type of
including
insurance.
Property insurance. Look at what's going on in California and Florida and a few other states. Some people cannot obtain property insurance because of the dramatic increase in disasters, hurricanes, California wildfires. On one hand, I know it's not popular to say, but on one hand, I sympathize with the insurance companies when they're paying out billions of dollars in claims every year. They're in many cases weather-related. On the other hand, at some point, this is, again, just my opinion, I think the federal government at some point is going to have to step in to deal with some of these insurance-related issues, because you can't have potentially millions of people in the U.S. who can't obtain insurance.
Now, agreed. It is a broken system because of the disaster levels that we're seeing. So it's unfortunate. So we're going to deal tomorrow a little bit more on the local level with, your car insurance and even your homeowners, and what you can do to help yourself get back to where you were, or at least within a reasonable rate. Because I'll tell you what, one thing about insurance companies, they are competitive.
Oh, yeah, they want our business.
Yes, they do. They want you to buy it. They don't want you to use it.
No, but that's why there's so much advertising on radio and TV. They got that one kid, Mayhem. I went to school with him, and he was bad in high school, but over the last couple of decades, he's gotten worse. And everywhere this was true in high school. Round Top, you never wanted him at one of your beer parties up at Round Top, because trouble would ensue. And everybody's like, oh, we're having a good time. Oh, no, there's Mark Mayhem. Oh, no. The cops are coming. We're all going to be arrested, and then our parents are going to have to bail us.
Penny.
Yeah, there you go. Thank you. And now, thanks to inflation, he's a bad quarter.
Yeah, right. That's up and two.
Yeah. So anyway, you'll be on tomorrow morning at about 9:20 with some important tips that could help people save money when it comes to insurance.
Absolutely. And right now we are at 1708 Vestal Parkway East, up above Plato's Closet and Style Encore. And you can reach us several ways for an appointment. You can simply give us a call at 607-772-4898. You can Google us at KSO Insurance, and all our contact information comes up, including our website. You can make an appointment that way, or if you miss the phone number, we have a big display ad under insurance in the Yellow Pages.
Karen Sweet O'Neill, we will talk again tomorrow morning.
Very good. Have a great day. Thanks, Bob.
Thank you. It's 9:36 at WNBF. Mark Mayhem. Strange thing about Marco, although he caused more than his share of trouble back in the day, he was incredibly smart, and that's why he's making millions of dollars now doing those insurance commercials. For a guy who was universally known as the town troublemaker, now he's raking in millions of dollars, very similar to Flo from Acme Insurance, the one that Flo, who went to Binghamton University. She didn't go to school to be on insurance commercials, and yet she's raking in millions of dollars because the insurance industry wants to sell you a policy. So that's what we ought to do. We ought to get Flo from Acme Insurance and then Mark Mayhem from the other insurance. We ought to get them here in the studio and tell us how much money they make from their lucrative commercials for the insurance industry. That'd be a great interview. It's 9:37. This is Bob Joseph, live in living color on NBF. And back to our phones on the Tuesday morning episode. Beverly in the town of Dickinson. Good morning. You're on the air.
Good morning, Bob. I was watching a movie yesterday that was written about that J.D. Vance that's running with President Trump. It was a very good movie. One thing I can say about the gentleman is that his mother had a situation, and he stuck by her for years and years and years until she overcome it. And he went to the service in the Marines, and he got out, and he went to Harvard University and become a lawyer. And it's a nice story, Bob. It really is.
Right. Did it take were there any weird twists in the story?
Yes, there was. There was some young fellas that he knew in school, and they got into mischief. He didn't, but the other kids did. And he hid them in his grandmother's house, so because he was afraid of what they would do to him. But unfortunately, they didn't do nothing to him, and those other kids were caught. But it's a very nice. It was a very nice movie. It's called The Hillbilly. It's Elegyy.
Oh, The Hillbilly Elegy. It was a movie that was...
That's a wonderful movie.
Well, it was a movie that was based...
Very caring person.
All right. Do they have any sequences involving furniture?
No.
Okay, I'm glad. I'm glad they didn't go there. So that movie is based on the book that he wrote.
Yep.
So, okay.
That's basically part of his life.
Right. Well, that's the thing. A lot of people read the book and said that they believe parts of it were autobiographical, and that's what's weird about it.
No, I don't think so, Bob. It was a true story. I believe it was true, and how he loved his mother, and he helped her all through her situation.
What was the weirdest thing about the movie that you recall? Like, if there was one thing that struck you as most weird.
Where he hid the kids in the cellar.
That is weird.
Instead of telling the authorities where they were, he hid them in the cellar because he didn't know what they were going to do to him.
Oh, okay. So he had a reason why he did what he did.
Yeah.
Okay.
But it's a good movie. I watched it on Netflix yesterday, and I'll probably watch it again.
Okay. Well,
it's a true story.
All right. Well, basically, I think I have to buy Netflix because I've never had the Netflix, but a lot of people say it's really good.
It's a month. And they got all kinds of movies on there, but they have commercials too,
Oh, I heard they were doing that. Which, just between you and me, I thought the whole premise of having the Netflix was so you could watch movies without commercials.
Well, if you didn't have the commercials, it cost you about $13.
Yeah. No, that's true. So I guess I need to save a little bit of money. So I guess I'd put up with the commercials. That'd be okay.
Yeah, but it was a very good movie. It was heartbreaking, But it was basically how he grew up in that area.
All right.
It was good.
Well, thanks for sharing.
Okay, have a good day, Bob.
You too. It's 9:44 at WNBF. Well, maybe it's not as weird as they say. What else going on? Oh, I know everybody says, Bob, why don't you do the weather? Why? Well, I'll tell you why, because we have another caller. Good morning. You're on the air. What's your first name? Where are you calling from?
Tom from Enville. How you doing, Bob?
Oh, good morning. Welcome.
So I just kind of wanted to ask you. So I saw a new Amazon commercial, and they have a picture on the wall. It goes by fairly quickly, but it has 2024 Kamala Harris and Oprah.
Well, I didn't see the commercial. First of all, remember, her name is Kamala. Say it with me, Kamala.
Kamala. Yeah,
Kamala Harris and Oprah Winfrey.
And Oprah.
So I think that would be a dynamic ticket, although I personally think it would be more effective if Oprah was the presidential candidate and Kamala Harris was vice president. But either way, it's a winner.
I mean, I just found that interesting. You know what I mean?
Yeah, well, Amazon, as you know, is owned by Jeff Bezos, who also owns the Washington Post, which yesterday published an opinion piece by President Joe Biden. So you see how everything is connected?
I mean,
I'd say just based on what we've established over the last 25 seconds, I'd say the fix is in.
I mean, yeah. And did you see the Olympics?
No, I don't watch the Olympics. I just don't. I don't invest that kind of time in watching people in Paris. But I know I've heard. I know someone who's watched it and likes the Olympics.
No, like their opening, how they mocked the Jesus dinner.
No, a lot of people were offended by that. A lot of people took exception to it. And I think the people who organized the opening events, I believe they issued an apology.
Right, you know, my this is my biggest thing with it. They used a lot of symbolism, like the guy in the white horse, the death led it to there was a bull's head, like up at the thing. So that's like all like symbolism into biblical and probably a bunch of other things. But what I don't understand is this whole transgender thing is being so slammed in our society with just sick, twisted dimensions of everything. I just don't understand why our society is allowing the satanic nastiness and like grooming our children.
Well, I don't believe they're grooming any children, but I do believe that people are being more accepted for who they are than has been the case in the past. I guess the bottom line that everybody has to ask themselves is exactly how does this affect you personally? So how has your life been affected over the last decade?
How has my life been affected? Well, I'm a grown adult, so...
Okay, so in other words, it's had zero effect on your life.
No, it has me personally. Like,
yeah, you, Tom and Endwell. How has your life been affected over the last decade, as there has been more acceptance of people who might be different than you?
Well, I still have a young child, and let me tell you, it's definitely, my child's seeing things that I don't personally think that should even be remotely out there. Even in children's cartoons, they got same-sex relationships. Yeah, it's affecting her. She brings things up. She asks questions, and she thinks it's disgusting.
Well, of course she would, because you're her dad. How old is she?
She's 12.
All right. So she's going to be at an age, soon she'll be a teenager, so she's likely to perhaps ask even more questions about things of this nature. And I certainly can understand from your perspective as a father that this is going to be a challenging time.
So let me ask you a question. So when they have these story times or whatever with transgenders or drag queens, where does that benefit the children? What do they get out of it, seeing grown men, biologically they're grown men, dancing around, reading books, acting all femme? What's that do for a child? What are they getting out of that? That we have lunatics that are reading the stories? Like, I mean, personally, I think it falls on the parents that actually even take them to these things.
That's what I was going to say. You as a parent would not have your 12-year-old daughter go there, but there might be some other parents who are listening who would say that would be okay for a 12-year-old child, and maybe they would go with their son or daughter, and if there are questions about it, and I would say most kids at that age, well, any age, kids always have questions, parents can discuss it. And because the real world, here's the tough thing, and I know most parents don't want to face it, say if they have a young child, someone who's not yet a teenager, but say in your case, your daughter's going to be 18 years old in less than 6 years, and she's going to be out in the real world where there are people who are unlike her. And she'll encounter, if hopefully she has a chance to go to college or continue her education after high school, she's going to encounter all types of people. And I think at an age of 12 or 13 is a time when parents can help their children start to understand that there are a lot of differences among people in the world.
Yeah, but the way that they propaganda, having parades and, they don't have marriage couple parades.
Yes, they do. Yes, they do. Most parades have lots of married couples.
They don't have parades that's specific for married couples.
Well, married couples should organize one then. I'll tell you what, this is my impression, Tom. If somebody wants to organize a married couples parade on Court Street in downtown Binghamton and apply for a parade permit, my guess is the City Hall will grant the the permit for a married couples parade. My guess is nobody has thought to organize one. Why don't you organize it?
Maybe, Bob. Maybe I should.
Or maybe at Highland Park. Or maybe we'll call the town of Union to see if you could have a married couples celebration at Highland Park. But remember, and people at Homer Brink Elementary School learned this the hard way, once you open things up like that, then you're going to have to open it up to all people, like the after-school Satan Club that they learned over at Homer Brink School, because they had opened up their facilities to another group that had a different viewpoint on religion. So everybody has to be afforded the same opportunities.
Yeah, weird how that works, right?
Well, you brought up weird. Yeah, everything is weird. Have you noticed just over the last couple of weeks how weird things have gotten?
Oh, yeah, like all the liberal media is using the same words and the Democrat weird.
Well, it is weird. I haven't heard the word weird wielded with such enthusiasm in many years. I mean, they used what I see with the English language is words take on a life of their own at various times. Like when I was a kid, a popular word for a few months was swell. Everything is swell. Well, you don't hear that much anymore, but words, it's sort of like, some words get hot and then they cool off after a while. Right now, weird is hot. Weird is it.
Well, let me use the word weird. What I think is weird is Kamala Harris said...
Kamala Harris. Let's say it one more time. Kamala
Harris.
Okay, thank you. I mean, by November 5th, we're eventually going to teach everybody the correct pronunciation of the next president's name.
So she's very boastful about women, but she can't even describe what a woman is. That's weird.
It's like the Supreme Court. They know it when they see it.
Yeah. All right, Bob.
All right. Always a pleasure, Tom.
Too bad. Yeah. Hopefully I didn't stir it up too bad.
Well, no, these are important issues. Don't be apologetic. These issues should be discussed, and I'm glad that we discuss them. Personally, again, as I asked you a few minutes ago, how has your life specifically been affected by what's going on? But your point about having a 12-year-old daughter, I understand. But one of the things that I hope that I take away from the conversation is you actually care deeply for your child, and as all parents should, you should be with her every step of the way. So when she does have questions, and any kid naturally is going to have questions about things that are different, things that they haven't been exposed to, that you are there to help her understand. And say if your daughter makes some choices that surprise you, not necessarily at this age, but say in the next few years, if she makes some choices or decisions about her life, would you support her?
Well, I can 100% guarantee you my daughter will not make those choices. She is very Christian. She attends church. She attends going back and taking care of the kids in church. She goes to the church programs, and we're very Christian in our home, and we hold Christian values. And, God made Adam and Eve, not Adam and Steve.
Well, it's interesting because just recently, without going into great detail, experienced a situation with a teenager who was raised in the church. Her family has been in the church for decades, and she and they hold strong Christian values. And she announced something that would have shocked some people a few years ago. So all I'm saying is, and again, this was a hypothetical. If your daughter, I'm not saying she will, because as you say, she's probably not likely, but in what we would say the unlikely event that she confided in you, that she had made a decision about her sexuality, would you still love her?
Well, first, let's rewind a bit. My daughter doesn't go to public school. Public schools indoctrinate a lot of things.
All right, we're running short on time. I apologize, because I know I asked you a big...
I figured we would.
Yeah, no, I mean, we've been on for a while. I appreciate your conversation, though. It's important. It's important dialogue.
All right.
Thank you.
Yeah, get your kids out of public schools.
Thank you, Tom. As for me, I support public schools. I support all schools, though. I support private schools, public schools. I support them all. And every parent has to make a decision about the type of education that's best for his or her child. It's 9:57. This is Bob Joseph live on News Radio, WNBF. We're joined in the studio by Rebecca Rathmel. We're going to talk about some legislation that's been debated by Binghamton City Council in recent weeks. Good morning.
Good morning.
Welcome back to the show.
Thank you.
So tell us about the ongoing conversation that city council members and city residents and the mayor have been having about some changes in the Binghamton human rights law.
Sure.
It's received some coverage, but really not as much as I might have expected. We haven't talked very much about it at all here on the program, but it's an important issue, and certainly it's an issue that's very, very important to you.
It is, and I think in terms of unexpected, folks are always surprised when I talk about the actual scope of homelessness in Binghamton and throughout Broome County, when I am throwing out numbers like over 2,800 individuals who were left to access emergency shelter last year because they couldn't find a place to call home for themselves or their family. We talk about almost 450 families who were in emergency shelter, and primarily more than local shelter, were utilizing local hotels because we've run out of shelter beds for families, again, who are simply unable to find a place that they can afford to call home. And so that scope of homelessness, the sheer numbers themselves of the experience, and then the source of it, the legislation that you mentioned is a step in a solution toward addressing that issue within both Binghamton and across Broome County. In Binghamton in particular, we have within our city charter, Chapter 45, what's known as the Binghamton Human Rights Law. And a group of advocates and myself, late spring this year, submitted legislation for consideration by City Council that would amend that Chapter 45 to include unhoused status as a protected class, which means that the rights of individuals who are experiencing homelessness, who are unhoused, would be identified as protected just like the rights of those with other classes, according to race, age, ethnicity, sexual identity, gender, are protected when attempting to access employment, education, housing opportunities. This legislation would expand that protection to individuals who are unhoused so they don't continue to face discrimination.
So that sounds simple enough. So why would anybody really be against that proposal? Why is it viewed in some quarters as controversial?
I think that's a fair question. The responses that have been submitted, concerns from particularly, I would say, the mayor, corporation council, feel that it's outside of the city's jurisdiction to establish such a local law. At the same time, we have local businesses downtown who were led to believe that this law would mean, and also city residents who have private property within the city, many of whom were led to believe that this legislation would simply establish an unrestrained right for unhoused individuals to encamp anywhere throughout the city. That is false. There's nothing within this legislation that would do that. Again, it is simply protecting the rights of those who are unhoused from discrimination and attempting to access the same rights that other city residents do.
So, over the last several weeks, there has been a fair amount of discussion and back and forth about the wisdom of this finally being adopted. Where do things stand now?
Right now, I think our most recent update is that both every city council member as well as the mayor and corporation council received a memo from the National Homelessness Law Center, which is not only an entity of national legal expertise, but they have over 30 years of experience in monitoring how effective solutions actually are or have been in ending and addressing homelessness within municipalities. City Council and the mayor received a memo from that law center in support of this legislation. And it held several sections, piece by piece, which identified that passing something at a local level to protect unhoused individuals from discrimination as they're working toward ending their homelessness, because that discrimination, particularly when it comes to access to housing, is a barrier to them ending their own homelessness. And so there are several sections in that memo that represent not only how this expanded legislation protects residents who have found themselves with no other option but to seek shelter or sleep on our streets, but how such legislation and approaches have been effective throughout the nation.
It is remarkable, as indicated in this memo, that close to half of all Binghamton renters are considered to be rent burdened. Mm-hmm. And for many people, and perhaps for most of the people listening, they might hear something like that and greet it with disbelief, that it can't be that serious. They understand there's a problem, but they can't believe that about half of the people who are renting in Binghamton are rent burden, that they're facing such difficulty just paying their monthly rent.
Yeah, and that cost burden means that they're spending more than half, and for many more than 70% of their monthly income just to keep that roof over their head. So that cost burden represents, when the memo points out more than half, it's the same response that I get where we started when I said that people just find it so difficult to believe that we have 2,800 individuals who are facing homelessness, but the data doesn't lie. I mean, talking points can twist narratives any certain way, but the data that actually exists to represent the scope of this issue, I sit in landlord-tenant court 3 times a week in Binghamton and observe evictions happening every single time that court is in session. And to watch someone lose, I think there's this stereotype, maybe this stigma, or we'll just say thought, perspective, that homeless folks are a certain type of human. What we actually see in those families with children who are accessing emergency shelter but are still working, or in seniors who are living on limited income and they're cost burdened and their landlord decided to end or terminate their lease so that they can convert that apartment into student housing. Displacement is happening at rates in the last several years that we haven't seen previously, and our eviction rates are returning to pre-COVID levels. So it's a very real challenge.
What's the main reason that it's gotten this bad this quickly over the last few years? You mentioned COVID and, of course, routine things, including eviction rules were suspended for an extended period of time due to the pandemic. But there were issues similar issues were already developing before March 2020. I mean, there were plenty of warning signs that what is now playing out on the streets and in the neighborhoods of Binghamton and other local communities, that this was something that was developing. It was a storm that was emerging, clearly.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, more than anything else, homelessness is a housing issue. And our lack locally of prioritizing the development of affordable housing for city residents, for county residents, we have focused almost exclusively in the last decade plus on developing student housing. And we've neglected to consider that we increasingly have families who need homes. We have residents who need homes. And the reason that lack of development has also compounded is for two reasons. I mentioned the conversions of existing affordable housing to student housing. Student housing is more profitable, and we're not regulating it to the extent that those conversions aren't allowable, or at least we haven't consistently been. And so we're seeing existing affordable housing being converted into student housing. We're seeing a lack of development of affordable housing in favor of prioritizing student and more recently luxury housing. And all of that is compounded post-COVID. We've known for years that we don't have enough affordable housing in the city, but now, post-COVID, we've run out of shelter beds as well. There are over 450 shelter beds throughout Broome County, and on any given night, almost every single one of them is full. We've continued to add shelter beds until we begin to prioritize preserving existing affordable housing, which is largely a code enforcement capacity, and developing new. We're going to see these numbers increase. Ideally, we could offer every single household who faces homelessness, who faces eviction, an alternative permanent, safe, affordable place to call home, but we can't do that right now. So in the meantime, this legislation intends to protect them as they walk through that situation.
So what's next for the legislation? Is City Council poised to act on it?
City Council is, as far as I'm aware, they continue to do their due diligence and having conversations with local residents. I think initially there was some education around what this legislation actually means as opposed to how it had been represented locally. And then I know they've met with business individuals downtown. They've met with residents. I've sent information to department heads. I've not received responses, but I know council members are discussing that information. So my hope is that a vote will come soon, possibly as early as next week, but regardless soon, so that we can continue to move forward. This is just the first step of an entire housing policy strategy to actually address the increases in homelessness that we've seen, because inaction is only making it worse.
Have you had any recent conversations with Mayor Cram about the issue?
I have not had any conversations with Mayor Cram about the issue. He's not reached out since I submitted it in April. I know that City Council continues to be in conversation. I think for this in particular, he's represented opposition. Again, he's identified that he believes what he's been pushing in terms of addressing housing and homelessness is working. My response consistently is that the numbers don't lie. It's only getting worse, and it continues to increase. And I think there's a broader, we see City Council having approved the reinstatement of, it's also in Chapter 45 of the Human Rights Law, the reinstatement of a Human Rights Commission that can actually function to serve residents who feel they may have been discriminated against. And historically, Mayor Cram has voiced opposition to that as well. And though he has the right to exercise and express his opinion, I think it's a poorly informed perspective when it comes to not only these issues that I think that memo pretty effectively addresses, but even with the Human Rights Commission. He has repeatedly claimed that the function of the Human Rights Commission in Binghamton is duplicative. And he has stated that the New York State Division of Human Rights serves to address complaints of discrimination at a higher level of local government. Again, though, the full story of that is while the Division of Human Rights does indeed exist, as a state entity, human rights commissions like the one that Council approved reinstatement of primarily serve not to determine when a violation has occurred or to litigate any matters. They serve to support local residents in understanding their rights and aiding them in what the actual process of filing a complaint is. We have human rights commissions immediately to the north and west of us. They're fielding employment complaints, housing complaints significantly, and that's showing up in the number of complaints that are filed by those counties. In the time, I will say I'm still making my way through the 2,200 plus housing complaints that have been made to the New York State Division of Human Rights since Binghamton's Human Rights Commission was effectively dissolved, but only 3 came from Broome. We're not providing any kind of effective local support. We talked about protected classes earlier. They are already marginalized. Folks who typically complain or file a complaint about discrimination and who experience discrimination, they're already marginalized due simply to their status. And so if we're choosing not to reinstate the Human Rights Commission as it was originally established, we're choosing to allow those who are most vulnerable among us to continue to face exploitation without recourse.
Rebecca Rathmel, a member of the Fair Housing Advisory Board, thanks for joining us this morning on Binghamton Now.
Thanks so much, Bob.
It's 10:26. We're live and local on this Tuesday morning. We'll be taking phone calls between now and noon on all types of issues. We want to hear from you. 607-772-1290. You're listening to News Radio, WNBF, 92.1 FM, 1290 AM, streaming at WNBF.com. For what it's worth, it's going to be another summer-like day here in the Binghamton area. Summertime and living is easy, he claimed, according to the liner card. Here's the forecast from the National Weather Service. Partly sunny today with a chance of showers and thunderstorms late this afternoon. High 87 tonight. Showers and thunderstorms. Low 69. Rainfall tonight between 1/2 and 3/4 of an inch. Possible. Partly sunny tomorrow with a chance of showers and thunderstorms. High 84. Sunny Thursday. High 89. And right now it is 79 in downtown Binghamton. 26 Celsius at News Radio WNBF. Air quality moderate. Not too good. Not too bad. The people who make these advisories say if you are unusually sensitive to particle pollution, consider reducing your activity level or shorten the amount of time you are active outdoors. So, I saw something about more smoke coming from wildfires. I don't think it's going to cause big problems here yet. We've been fortunate so far. So far, we've been fortunate not to have many bad air days, unlike last year. Remember June of last year? Still look at those pictures and marvel. Enough to make you sick. All that wildfire smoke. So hopefully we will not experience that later this summer. It's 10:31. Back to the hotlines. Good morning. You're on the air. What's your first name? Where are you calling from?
This is John, and I live in the city of Binghamton.
The city of brotherly.
It's a small city with big problems.
Well, like most cities. All right, continue.
So, I see Velo Airlines is adding flying 3 flights a day to Rochester. Congratulations. I hope they save some of that $660,000 that Jason Garner and Dan Reynolds gave to them for their show here in Broome County.
Well, with all the killings going on in Rochester, probably a lot of people will want to fly out of Rochester to a safer place.
Well, what's interesting now they're playing the same shell game out there. A big company moved to Pittsford, and then at the same time they left. They left downtown Rochester, and at the same time the Canandaigua Spirits Company is moving in. So it was like a 250th job loss and then a 250 job replacement. But the interesting thing about Rochester, as long as you brought it up, is this. Crime doesn't affect where people live. I mean, it might be, some streets, some blocks, but, I mean, Rochester continues to attract new residents. So it's jobs. That's important. It's not necessarily crime. I mean, and I think Rochester proves it. They got a $1 billion broke school district. They got violence and nonprofit fraud all over the place, and yet, it's tough to find a house. You got to bid up to pay a house, so you figure that one out. It's just like the myth of people leaving California. That's a myth, Bob, because any house that was, say, $50,000 20 years ago in Southern California is $1 million plus. So nobody's leaving there. It's a great place to make money, and it's you get involved in these talking points, and you begin to believe that it's true. I mean, look, let me tell you something about Florida. It's a miserable, hot, and humid place to live, and people have convinced themselves, because their friends are down there, or their kids are down there, that it's great. Well, go a couple of summers down there and see. I mean, it's the same thing in Arizona, the same thing in Nevada. These are god-awful places to live, climate-wise, and, there might have been a case to be made when they were relatively depopulated and the live-in was easy. But now that they're populated up the yin-yang and life is miserable, don't ever kid yourself, Bob. This is the great place to be, except Binghamton, as I said yesterday, is not keeping pace with the rest of upstate New York. You go, and I just want to just say this. You go and you say, you cannot believe, you will hit towns you didn't even know the names of, and they have an intact little Main Street and villages, and I don't care what direction you go, whether you go up to Oneonta or Delaware County or all the way across the state, Geneva, and all these beautiful, beautiful places, and you say, well, why isn't Binghamton a beautiful place? Why when the IDA gives money to build these subsidized housing, why don't these businessmen that are on the board of IDA say, could you do something with the plans? This is, we're behind this project, but we think this building is ugly. Can you come up with some doodads and make it look better? Can you come up with some better landscaping? This is what business is all about. Instead, there's just this forge ahead. Who cares? Go to the gas station that's at number 5. I was at all those planning board meetings. Go when delivery time comes, when the people are coming in with the gasoline and the soft drinks, and I mean, it's a traffic nightmare. Everything that was said by the detractors of that project, the way it was laid out, were correct, and now it's a mess. So, look, and let me get to the 100-year-old buildings, 110, however old they are. These gargoyles and things falling off. These buildings aren't worth $1 million in the man in the moon. As the people that bought the knitting company for $100,000, and then one weekend they got a pile of bricks. This city is in bad shape, and yet Cram is going to eminent domain, a viable commercial place known as the Binghamton Plaza. No one knows what's coming next, but Binghamton won't be ready for it. That's for damn sure. It's an ugly place. Look at the governmental plaza. Look at what used to be a fountain. Look at the maintenance there. Donna Lopardo's been in there for, 22 years? She goes to work, I assume. Maybe she parks her car in the basement and comes up on the elevator. But she doesn't go out there and look around. Jason Garner doesn't go out there and look around.
Well,
Jeff
of course
Cram
they see what it looks like, but what can you do? It's too late. First of all, and this is, it's a complicated thing, but to a large extent, look, it was designed in the late 60s. It was built a little over 50 years ago, the entire governmental plaza. Design, hideous by all measures, by all accounts. City Hall, the county office building, the state office building. I don't know what looks worse. I guess City Hall showed at least a little bit of originality as far as the design, although totally impractical with a council chamber where you'd have to go up on an 80-foot ladder to change light bulbs and stuff like that. Totally crazy. So it shows that not only are mistakes being made in our area on a daily basis in 2024, but they are being made probably with at least as much frequency in the late 60s and 70s. Mistakes were made, and sadly enough, John, a lot of the mistakes that were made that we're still paying the price for today happened when we had 2 vibrant newspapers and 3 or 4 vibrant TV stations and 3 or 4 radio news departments. So a lot of the stuff was being covered in real time, and yet some of these serious mistakes were made as far as, with the urban renewal and the governmental plaza and just overall design, everything that, we've had to endure now for the last half century. And what are you going to do? As far as the buildings, though, to your point about the older buildings that actually were beautiful in their day and architecturally innovative, and now we, of course, see some of the issues with pieces that inevitably are going to fall to the sidewalk. So they do need some repairs, but unfortunately, it's only going to get worse now that there's no news coverage, or not no news coverage, extremely limited news coverage. That means a lot of the decisions that are being made by local government are going to go on, and then think about the future generations, the people who are going to be around here in 10, 20, 50 years, and what they're going to be stuck with, what we're going to saddle them with.
Well, I disagree with you on one point. Yes, we're locked into a lot of the mistakes of the past, but that's got nothing to do with overall cleanliness. You can take 2 buildings side by side or across the street from each other. You can have one guy going, planting the flowers, putting some trees up, doing the best with what's there, and we're not doing the best with what's there.
Well, I beg to differ there. I see some city workers. Look, the people with Parks and Recreation are doing, I think, a significant amount of work at beautifying sections of downtown with some of the plantings and, both on ground and in the air. Now, should there be more? Could there be more? Yes. And should the city place a higher priority on trying to beautify all of Binghamton, maybe with a unified program, maybe have a big news conference and even, dare I say, establish a city beautification commission to help get it done, because you're going to need the work of a lot of people, government and city residents and business people, to make it happen. To your point, though, about cleanliness, hey, a lot of that, sadly, falls on to the residents and visitors, not just residents, but people who treat this city shabbily and then And you document it on a regular basis, after student parties, and oh look, there are only 1,000 red cups. Well, it must not have been a very good party, because usually there are 3,000 or 4,000 red cups after the morning after these parties. So in some cases, and it's easy a lot of times to point fingers at students, but look, we've got issues now involving litter and debris around the city, and the students haven't been here for several weeks. So to a large extent, it's city residents and visitors themselves who are to blame for the current appearance of some parts of Binghamton.
I agree, Bob. I agree. But here's another curious thing. This Helios, their clientele are going to put where they are right now. They're unleashing hell on earth in this city, whether it's in the First Ward or what will be downtown. You can't take a postage stamp downtown and jam it with all kinds of people with problems in their life, and then, for good measure, put some student housing and think that witch's brew is going to yield anything. What are we buying St. Mary's Gym for? There's no kids that live in that neighborhood. The kids live in other places. That neighborhood, that what was Little Italy, Susquehanna Street, whatever you want to call it, that's long gone. There's very few kids there. That's why Columbus School is closed. So what are we putting all these basketball courts and Columbus Park and this and that when nobody uses the damn thing?
All right. That's a good question. We'll leave it there for now. Thank you, John from Binghamton. Some issues that will be discussed in the hours and days ahead here on Binghamton Now. It's 10:43, and a lot of people have called. Not just this week, but in recent weeks and months, and focused on just, I hate to use the word, the shabby look of too many sections of the city. It's not citywide. I mean, there are significant portions of Binghamton, whether it's downtown or the west side, the south side, the north side, the east side, they look beautiful. You can tell. There are homeowners, business owners, organizations, including churches and other organizations. They care immensely for the city. And we do have a lot of people who on a regular basis spend hours, whether it's weekly or monthly, with cleanups. So those efforts should be commended and encouraged. Those efforts ought to be expanded. But again, there also, I think, has to be a different mindset, because there is a percentage of the population, whether people who live here or people who visit or work in Binghamton, and if you throw stuff around, food wrappers, beverage containers, cigarette butts, etc. If you throw stuff around, if you treat the city like it's just a big garbage dump, well, then we're all suffering for it. And there's no excuse for it. If you're over the age of 6 months, you can put your trash where it belongs. If you can't find a trash container, well, then hold on to whatever it is till you get back to your office or your car or your home, and then dispose of it properly. Don't throw it out on a city street, whether it's downtown or any neighborhood. It's outrageous. And when there are cleanup efforts, look at the amount of litter that volunteers pick up. If they do a cleanup initiative on a weekend and they're out only for 3 or 4 hours, the amount of trash that they pick up is stunning. And it's uncalled for. It doesn't have to be that way. Don't treat the city or any other community around here as some sort of dump. It's 1046. Our number is 607-772-1290. Bob Joseph with you on a Tuesday morning. This is Binghamton Now. Gary from Binghamton South Side. Good morning. You're on the air.
Good morning, Bob. Let me follow up on some conversation that's been talked about here. It's the community cleanup. I have attempted to, and I've offered solutions to the county when they refused to do a cleanup because nobody was willing to pay the tipping fee. I offered to pay that. I also offered 1,000 city garbage bags, to anybody that wanted to do a cleanup. Nobody took on that. So I just feel government's not really interested. The administration's not interested in cleaning this up. But I did some research on the Binghamton Local Development Corporation, and they're the ones that hand out the facade grants, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And they have a 13-member board. I was a guest member on the board under the Krebs administration as a guest member. I don't remember 13 people. 11 of them are appointed by the mayor. Now, during my research, I was researching the Strand Riviera Theater, and there's on YouTube, there's Cinema Memories or something like that. They have pictures of the inside of the Strand and Riviera, which is totally what it was, and now it's totally gutted. But I also ran into a story that you did about the Stone Opera House, which is the Strand, I believe, and you did a story about it, and it was developers were going to clean that up. I see they gutted the inside and just left it. But this is across the street from the Weeks and Dickinson's on Shenango Street. Beautiful stone building. It's called the Stone Opera House. It's actually a gem. And it's been abandoned by the city's responsibility to, clean up the front of it. It's got boarded up windows and so on and so forth. This is the type of stuff that the Binghamton Local Development Corporation and with their facade grant program should be taken care of. I see no evidence that the Binghamton Local Development Corporation, run by the mayor, 11 appointed people on there. Now, who controls that? The mayor. With 11, I've seen their meetings and nobody says nothing. I just don't understand. 11 appointed people. Now, this program is to benefit facades, the way the city looks. I don't see any effort. I see nothing. So that's all I want to add to it.
All right. Appreciate your call. Thank you. It's 10:50 at News Radio, WNBF. In walking around Mr. Joseph's neighborhood here downtown, I am impressed by some things that have been done, primarily on Court Street, and some things, in fact, quite a few things on Washington Street. There have been positive changes, and certainly, as people will recall, the renovation or rehab and improvements that were done as part of the Deco district for one block of State Street took over 2 construction seasons to complete and created a lot of inconvenience and problems for businesses. But so there are pockets of progress, to be sure. So I'm not overlooking the good things that have happened over the last several years. I will say, having been in downtown Binghamton for many years, I'll leave it at that, many, many years, I think downtown Binghamton right now looks much, much better than it did 15 or 20 years ago, or 30 years ago. Every once in a while, when I'm doing some kind of research, or if I'm just nostalgic, I'll pull out one of those VHS tapes where I recorded what things looked like around here, say, 30 or 40 years ago, and we have made some progress. I mean, there have been some instances, too, where things have been allowed to deteriorate. There are the empty theater buildings, unused theater buildings on Shenango Street. That continues to be disappointing. On the other hand, if you go just a little south of those theaters, You see what happened with the press building, now the printing house apartments, and also the university lofts at the corner of Shenango and Court. I mean, those buildings, if you look back at pictures from 20 or 30 years ago, they were in pretty bad condition. Of course, there's a tremendous setback when fire broke out at what ultimately has become the university lofts, and we probably, I'm sure most of our listeners remember what happened with the press building that had been renovated very recently before that fire, and then people had to find other space because of the smoke and water damage caused by the fire. So some things happen, but still there are spots, and I have conversations. I've had ongoing conversations with some people over the last couple of months about some specific spots here in downtown Binghamton that look like they should hold some potential, but for some reason they've just been sitting idle now for year after year after year. And I'm not 100% certain why that is. There are some issues when it comes to structural problems, but sometimes I think there are some other issues involved too. As they say, complicated. 10:54 here at WNBF. Good morning. You're on the air. What's your first name? Where are you calling from?
Good morning there, Bob. It's Dave from Vestal.
Morning.
How's it going? Good morning. Hey, you sound like you're the perfect man for the job, Bob. Overseeing, and you have the right name, Bob. Beautification of Binghamton. Put you in charge, Bob. You can take care of the whole thing. You sound like you have a plan already, Bob.
Not a specific plan. I have a vision, or a generalized vision about Binghamton, how to take what we have now, which I think is fairly good, and improve upon it. Problem with me and developing a plan is I have ideas, but I don't have the money to execute the plan.
I see. Well, I think you'd be good for it, Bob. Hey, I wanted to touch real quick on I listened earlier to Tom from Mendwell. And Bob, I was intrigued. Why aren't we having heterosexual celebrations? Bob, that's a great idea.
As after I said that, and nobody came up with an idea to come up with a parade such as he was suggesting, then I thought, wait, because in America, virtually every parade up until recent years has been just that. That's what every parade has basically celebrated. As you know, in New York City, for example, the St. Patrick's parade that went down Fifth Avenue until recent years actually banned organizations, gay organizations, and now that's changed. But yeah, so I guess there was no need for any specific parades because most of the parades held in this country for more than 2 centuries were celebrating that just that very thing. So yeah, that I think we answered that question. There's no need for a specific parade.
Straight pride parade, Bob? I think so. That would be cool. I mean,
well, then go out and go to the town of Vestal and get a parade permit, and maybe you could have it on Vestal Road some Saturday afternoon in August.
Yeah, it would be huge, Bob.
I don't know that it'd be huge. I mean, you organize it, and we'll see how many people show up.
Okay. Well, you're going to help me?
No.
What?
No, the only thing I'll do is I'll cover it as a news story because there's going to be global interest in that type of parade. And the other thing is, though, if you bill it as that and then some organization that includes people who are gay wants to march, you can't exclude them.
No, you couldn't exclude them.
No, you can't. You know, in this country, you can't discriminate. So if you hold that kind of parade and some gay-oriented organizations want to march, you say absolutely.
they'd probably be on the sidelines with some obscene signs.
Oh, I doubt it. But, on the other hand, it's a free country, so no one, there's always a few in every crowd who get weird on, those weirdos. Oh, I'm sorry. Okay, we're talking about something else. We're talking about the weird candidates. Okay, well, thanks for checking in. Oh, it's going to be a weird 98 days. The summer of weird. Sounds like some sort of weekend promotion for a bad radio station. More calls are coming up. It's Tuesday morning. You're listening to Binghamton Now. I'm Bob Joseph on News Radio, WNBF and WNBF.com. Indeed, it is extra special here at your radio station. I have a couple of interesting stories that I'm in the process of doing some research and reporting on, so if you want to see some interesting stuff. Is that what they call journalism now? Yes, interesting stuff. We encourage you to take a look at WNBF.com later this afternoon. You should check it out all the time. Just to be sure, so you know what's going on around your town. In case you haven't seen it yet, yes, we had some of the pictures from Monday afternoon, just taking a close, painful look at the crumbling Jarvis Street underpass. So you can see the pictures, yes. Conveniently, I asked the operator of the Locomotive 7533. I asked him to drive it over the bridge there while I was taking a picture. So that's a beautiful, beautiful picture, in my opinion, of that guy driving 7533 for Norfolk Southern over the crumbly bridge. It's like blue cheese, crumbly blue cheese, except in this case, if you get hit by the crumbly concrete, you probably will be less than happy. So they're fixing it. Take a look at the pictures and the videos at WNBF.com. Back to the phones we go. Good morning. You're on the air. What's your first name? Where are you calling from?
Joe of Greater Ithaca. Would like to speak about a drag show.
Excellent. Fill me in. Tell me all you know. Yes? Okay. I thought he was going to tell me. Maybe we lost the connection. Anyway. Never having been to one of the performances, I thought, well, maybe he'll call back. Joe from Greater Ithaca. 607-772-1290. Of course, the phone lines are going to work about as well as phone lines work in 2024. You really can't expect much these days. Oh, this might be him again. Good morning, WNBF. You're on the air.
Yeah, it's Joe again. Boy, I could hear you.
Okay, I could not hear you. So anyway, so yes, tell me about the drag shows.
Okay, let's see, did you get the part where I said it was in Homer, New York?
No, we didn't get that part. We got nothing beyond that you're Joe from Greater Ithaca, and you wanted to talk about the topic, and then the line went dead.
Okay, well, it was in Homer, New York at Center for the Arts. And anyway, I didn't know quite what to expect. When I hear drag show, I think of drag queens, and I think of men dressed to look like as good-looking women as they can. And it was anything but. It was more like the Rocky Horror Picture Show. The first thing came out was, the music and everything was all recorded and very loud. They had a big crowd and screaming, like when the person that came out that looked like the devil, he kind of walked around, and it says some monologue what I could hardly understand, some, I guess, somewhat funny things and stuff. But the characters except for one person that looked like a prostitute. The rest of them are all very comical. Like there was one that was Judge Judy, with that kind of.
Did they have one who looked like Judge Janine?
No.
Maybe the next time.
Only one judge at a performance, I guess.
Well, that's true. You don't want to overload people who are not part of the Law and Order crowd.
And the judge had a gavel and a little desk like that, would pound the gavel, make smart-ass remarks, that kind of thing like that. And then there was a character that the only way it looked like, you couldn't tell. I mean, you could see, it looked like a man, okay, very rugged-looking man that had like big breasts and did a lot of like acrobatic type of dancing and a very, very hard performance with it. And I sat very close to where the guy sat later, and you tell sweating and out of breath and everything. So they really gave it their all. And then there was a character that had very huge buttocks. I mean, just so far exaggerated like that, and a thong kind of thing. Of course, it's all stuffed with stuff, and you don't see anything. I mean, it's just to me, it was a big comedy show kind of thing, and with a lot of energy and a lot of screaming. There are younger people for the most part there, and.
Tell me about the elements of the production that you found most offensive.
I didn't think anything was offensive. That they made a remark because it was and I don't know. I didn't find it offensive, but this formerly was a Baptist church made into a theater, and it very little has changed there. They put in air conditioning and more sound, I guess, something like that. But it has a balcony in it, and the seating is not theater seating. It's not raised up on the floor, but you go in the balcony to look down on it. But I don't know, offensive. In fact, I bring a 10-year-old to it. I think they just laugh at it, and it was so extreme of the characters. It was, like I say, it wasn't a drag queen thing like I've envisioned. So I don't know what anyone would. It was offensive to me. It was so loud. I forgot to put my hearing
that's what
aids
happens. That's what happens at some entertainment venues, even sometimes sports events. Apparently, there's now a theory when you're putting on certain events that you need to have loud music, and the louder the better. So apparently younger people don't get bored, and so sometimes I'm subjected to extremely loud music, louder than you would think it has to be. And now I'm looking up here. I won't name the church, but I see there's a church in Binghamton that had a drag show, and I mean just recently, in the last few weeks. I didn't hear anybody complain about it.
No.
I mean, what I hear sometimes is they've had, I guess, a story hour at the library, and I don't know what goes on there. I've never heard that anything bad goes on during the story hour. And furthermore, since the story hour apparently is for kids, I can't imagine, say, most kids driving over to the library on Court Street without their parents' knowledge. If you've got a kid and he or she wants to go to the story hour at the library, don't they have to at least ask you for the car keys?
Yeah.
Or whatever. Or, well, that's true. The kids these days, they're independent, and they probably have come up with their own electronic hack on their phone so they can drive your car whenever they want, because kids are so smart these days.
Yeah, the offensive was so loud, and I had forgotten my hearing aids. I hadn't been using them until recently. And one of the things is, if you have them in, it blocks the hearing. Okay, so what it does, not only does it amplify when it needs it, but it attenuates it. So really loud stuff can't get through, and I've experienced it in other places. I should have had them, but a lot of things I just forget these days. And loud screaming too. All
right. So the drag show you were talking about in Homer, to your knowledge, was anybody forced to attend?
Yeah, they had people outside with whips making them go in there. That reminds me of a thing when there was a recession, and it shows like a store, a big box store, like Fowler's or something, and the Santa Claus is out there with whips making people go into the store.
Well,
forced to go in.
It's if you think things were odd in the good old days, things are starting to get really weird right now across parts of America. So brace yourself, Joe. Brace yourself.
It's entertainment.
Exactly. Thank you. 11:19 at News Radio WNBF, a first-hand account of what happened in Homer one night. It's 11:20 at WNBF with Bob Joseph, 607-772-1290. More calls coming up on Binghamton Now. DJ in Binghamton, you're on the air.
Good morning, Bob. Just wanted to speak on what Tom from Enwell was talking about earlier. That was not at all a depiction of the Last Supper, but it was Dionysus who arrived at the table, and they were celebrating the festivities of the Sand River. He's the father of Sequana, the goddess to the Sand River. It had nothing to do with the Last Supper. So I wanted him to know that. And
all right, and so nobody should be offended.
Well, you'll be offended if you misconstrue. Anybody can be offended if they misconstrue. If I went to the courthouse at downtown Binghamton and did something, and you pick out 10 people, 7 of them are going to be offended at whatever it was that I did. So the best thing we can do is just be steadfast in our faith. And furthermore, I think he called Christianity a religion. It's not a religion. Christianity is a relationship. It's faith with your Father, Jesus Christ. It has nothing to do with religion.
All right. I appreciate your offering perspective and putting this into some important context.
Bob, this practice is older than Christianity.
All right.
What they did.
All right. Well, it had no impact on me. I'm not watching the Olympics, and I won't. So that way I'll avoid the temptation to be outraged.
Yes, Bob. What I will say is, if Tom will Google the picture of the swimmers in the swimming pool.
Oh, let's not go there. No Googling. You might find something you don't want to see. Here's the thing. Nobody should use the Internet without somebody to counsel them, because especially if you're prone to outrage.
They spelled out, bring them home now with their...
Yeah, I know. You sent me the picture. You mentioned it on the program Monday. So I don't want people to be using Google unless they have a trained counselor, because if you use Google and something comes up in the search results, you might be outraged.
If you educate yourself, you won't be offended.
Well, the problem, DJ, we now have a certain percentage of people who go through life constantly offended and outraged.
I'm not talking about cat ladies with no children.
All right, you would have to go there. Now, that's weird. Tom in Susquehanna, you're on the air.
How you doing, Bobby? I'll tell you the truth. I saw that Last Supper thing there. It looks just like the Last Supper. They're all on one side of the table, and they got the middle one where Christ would be. I mean, I wasn't offended by it, but I just thought it was in bad taste. And it was like, Mel Brooks did the thing on the Last Supper. He was the waiter. And he comes in, he goes, they're all sitting around. He says, well, first of all, is it going to be separate checks? And I mean, that was funny. I don't know what they tried to prove. But that's not what I called about. I called about, you're the only one I heard mentioning about the loud noise. I mean, even at weddings sometimes, you can't talk. It's so loud, it is unbelievable. My wife used to go to concerts and all that stuff. She's at Jones Beach at Zack's Bay with a girlfriend watching, a rock concert. Now, this is out open air in Zack's Bay. I don't know if you know it. It's on the South Shore by Jones Beach. She was sitting by the speakers. She had to put cotton in her ears. And now She has a hearing aid. I believe half these people with the hearing aids is because the music, everything is just loud. Even like now, I got a front load diesel. When I put it on, I put on earphones and stuff. So what do you think?
Yeah, I think people should stop making so much loud noise.
Yeah, I mean, what is the point of making it loud if it's not, I don't understand it. I don't hear anybody complaining. And you hate to do it. You're at a wedding, you say, for God's sakes, but, after like 3 hours and there's pounding in the music.
Well, if that's the case, then you just have to leave. If somebody wants to have a wedding reception with really loud music, if it becomes unbearable, then I would just leave.
Bob, you can't leave. I mean,
Well, you can leave and explain why. I mean, no, I understand it's impolite to leave, but it would be more impolite to ask them, could you lower the volume of the music because I find it very painful or annoying or disconcerting. So it's their wedding reception. If they want music cranked up to 130 decibels or whatever, let them do what they want. But if you can't take it any longer, politely say, congratulations, hope this lasts longer than the last one. And the main thing is just make sure that you have left a very expensive and memorable gift and be polite as you leave. So the music is very loud. Wonderful reception, a wonderful ceremony, and I'm sure you're going to be happy for weeks to come.
Yeah. Well, I know. I don't understand the loudness.
No, I don't either. But again, say if I'm in a situation where things are too loud, then I'm going to get out of that situation. Even if people would say, oh, look, Bob's leaving. What a rude guest. No, I would leave with the appropriate explanation, although I'd probably have to shout it. Maybe I would type it out on my phone so they would know why I'm leaving, because I probably couldn't shout loud enough over the music to let them know I'm leaving, but don't take it personally.
Yeah, you're sitting at the table. You can hardly hear the person next to you when you try to talk. Then you try to talk to somebody across the other side of the table, and I just nod and like laugh. And
I know. I experienced that actually at a wedding reception not long ago. I know exactly what you mean, and it's unpleasant. Unfortunately, I was not in a position to make a command decision to get the heck out of there fast, but sometimes you gotta take one for the team. I appreciate your call.
Okay, take care, Bobby.
11:30 WNBF Binghamton with the amazing Bob Joseph. Hi, you're on the air. What's your first name? Where are you calling from?
You're the amazing Bob Joseph?
This is the one and only, the amazing Bob.
This is the amazing Matt Ryan.
Why do you have a sock over your phone?
Oh, I have you on speakerphone.
Well, then undo whatever you've done. It sounds like you're that weird guy who's playing with a sock or a sock puppet.
Is that better?
Well, it's a little bit better. All right. So this is Matt from Binghamton. What's going on?
I don't think we should. First of all, that guy, Bob the plumber, I loved his story. He called the other day saying he had his least interesting story as I did. And by the way, I hope you didn't catch I wasn't like I called up and you were asking me questions about some things I went through in my life. I wasn't trying to tell my whole story, but you brought out some things about law school and the bar exam and stuff like that. So,
yeah, it was only in response to my interrogation, and I appreciated your doing that. Look, by now we've had literally dozens of conversations over the years, but still, I'm inclined to think that there are still some things that we can talk about that occasionally will provide new information and insight, and that call was one of those times.
One of my favorite authors of all time was Studs Terkel, and he was famous for, going out and talking to all sorts of people, and that the country's made up of many different kinds of people, and everybody has a good, story to tell. So we should tell more of those stories.
Well, in my own way, Although I don't a lot of times wind up telling stories. In some ways, I feel on any given day I'm sort of in that mode. It's amazing, Matthew, how many people that I get to meet in a typical week around here may not turn into a story. I know they have stories to tell, but I've on any given week have the pleasure of being able to meet such a wide array of people, from the wealthiest and most well-off people in our communities to the people at the other end of the spectrum. And I got to say, I just feel very fortunate to interact with all of them, with people no matter what their lot in life is. The fact that, and even if it's only a couple of minutes, I try to at least glean something from everybody that I have a chance to speak with, to try to get some appreciation for what people are going through.
Absolutely, and that's so important, because we are, we're kind of prisoners of our own existence in some ways, and we don't get to meet as many people from different walks of life. And I think your show does provide a whole array of different people from different walks of life. So that's good. I called also to say that we should not allow anymore the Republicans to dominate the hat market. And now that we know they're weird, I came up with a couple things. I think we should have a contest among Democrats to come up with the best ones. And so here it's a combination T-shirt and hat. So the first T-shirt would be Trump hates dogs and never laughs. That's weird. And then the J.D. Vance one would be J.D. Vance says he has nothing against cats or dogs, but rails against women without children. That's really weird. And then instead of MAGA, it could be, I came up with MANA. So it'll be Make America Normal Again. And that's my input.
You mean normal is in less weird?
Yes.
Really?
Yeah.
Well, then they've got to call the company that makes these hats and tell them we need what we need is a rush order in the next 2 or 3 weeks. We need 50 million hats. They're going to be blue hats, so people will instantly recognize blue hats with white writing, and they could be
Harris make, and they would say Harris make America Normal Again.
Well, it could be like Harris Shapiro, because it's already been decided. So, Pennsylvania Governor Joshua David Shapiro. And the reason why this will mesh so well is both of them use the initials J.D. now. So J.D. Shapiro versus J.D. Vance, the two vice presidential candidates. The vice presidential debate could be the battle of the J.D.s. Joshua David Shapiro versus J.D. Vance. Remember, the J.D. and Vance, no periods till he changes his name again. How many names has he gone through? I mean, the weird thing about Josh Shapiro that's going to confuse people who look into these things, he's had that name, Joshua David Shapiro, since he was born on June 20th, 1973. So he's managed to stick with the same name for over half a century.
Well, let's just start calling Jimmy who he is, Jimmy Vance. Jimmy Vance.
Hey,
anyway,
be nice.
One other. That's not bad. It's a real name.
You know what we should send him is a cat. I'm kidding. He would take that. He would be offended. He'd be like, Bob Joseph, don't send me a cat.
Would he let it on his couch?
All right. Now you've gone too far. I'm talking about living room furniture on this program. This is a family show. 11:36 at WNBF. Good morning. You're on the air. What's your first name? Where are you calling from? All right. Line number 7. What's your first name? Where are you calling from? Line 12. What's your first name? Where are you calling from? They didn't like my joke about the cat. Oh, well. So anyway, when Josh Shapiro is nominated, so Pennsylvania will easily go to the Democrats with Shapiro on the ticket. Ohio, of course, will. New York, I don't know. You've got a lot of weird voters in New York, so New York will be a toss-up. But Ohio and Pennsylvania, with Governor Shapiro on the ticket, it's going to be an easy win. Those are easy electoral votes for the Democrats. Hi, you're on the air. What's your first name? Where are you calling from?
Yeah, it's Paul from Owego, Bob. How are you?
I'm okay. What's up?
Oh, I just want everybody to know, thank God I have a civil rights attorney in my family. My niece, Cynthia Conti Cook, is a pretty well-known civil rights attorney, and I think my civil rights have been offended just about every which way in this goofy county down here. But,
wow. I, for one, love Tioga County. It's not that weird.
Well, no, it's not weird. Look at Bob. I've lived in Tioga County since 1957. People don't realize that. You know, I've had a clean slate until the Strawberry Police. And my civil rights have been offended, and I got me a pretty good-sized law firm that's going to represent it. And you know, hats off to good attorneys. That's all I can say.
Well, that's what I always say. If I get myself in a jam, well, so far I haven't gotten myself into a big jam. Could happen someday. But I certainly will get a high-powered lawyer, because that's the way you get justice in this country, Paul.
Yeah, it's unbelievable. Bob.
You get, in America, you get all the justice you can afford.
Exactly.
All right. Well, I wish you well. You keep me posted, okay?
Yeah, I'll be 70 in October, Bob. I never got a ticket like that in my life. But hopefully they get this thing figured out.
Well, I think justice will prevail. I'm confident in the justice system. And it sounds as though you've got very good representation. So I think things will work out okay.
Thank you. Have a great week, Bob.
You too. It's 11:39, WNBF. We support the people. This is the People's Talk Show. Bob Joseph on your side, standing for everything that's right in America today. Morning, you're on the air. What's your first name? Where are you calling from?
Hey, Bob, it's Dave again. You're talking about all these JDs, and I was thinking that hillbilly elegy there. Don't forget J.D. Clampett, Bob. Keep him in there.
Okay, thanks. WNBF, you're on the air. What's your first name? Where are you calling from?
Hello, Bob. It's Jesse from Owego. The only drag shows I've ever frequented were the ones that were on drag strips. And that's a whole different breed.
Yeah, they used to have a good drag show up there on, Airport Road in the town of Dickinson, or town of Union, I guess, up near Choconet Center. That was especially late at night. There were some good drag shows there.
Oh, absolutely. We had one up here at Skyline Park, and I'm surprised that I didn't come with to see the likes of Judge Janine, because I can only say this. 119 miles ain't jack to her. Now, you get a drag strip, and she's the driver in the seat, she would have been quite the winner.
I've often said that about my favorite judge on cable TV.
You know what I'm hoping is when that cop retires, the one that actually clocked her, I think it was 10 miles faster. I think he cut her a touch of a break. But try imagine Judge Janine, if she was in NASCAR, she'd probably end up falling asleep.
Be nice. Thank you, Jesse. We're big in Owego. We could call the program Owego now. But then people would get confused. This program's for everybody, Binghamton and beyond. 607-772-1290. If you have yet to call today, now is your opportunity. Lines are open. I've cleared the lines. So now everybody has an equal shot to call into the program. We're live at 92.1 FM, 1290 AM, streaming at WNBF.com. But really, can you prove that it's really live and hasn't been pre-recorded for Bob's convenience? Who's to say it wasn't recorded a month ago, 2 months ago, like all those other so-called talk shows? Tragedy, unspeakable tragedy in Rochester, hasn't received as much attention as one might expect, but it's a terrible thing with the shooting that happened at a park in Rochester, a city park. 2 women were killed. 5 people were wounded in the shooting that happened shortly after 6 o'clock on Sunday evening. A city worker in Rochester, Tyesha Manning, who was 25, along with an event planner, Felicia Council, who was 34, were the 2 people who died after gunfire rang out at Maplewood Park. I'm reading the story from David Proper in the New York Post. Tyesha Manning was pronounced dead at the scene, and Felicia Council died at a hospital. Mayor Malik Evans said people were in a celebratory mood, enjoying the warm weather. But yet we had cowards that decided to start shooting. 5 other people who were shot are expected to recover. The Rochester Police Chief David Smith said multiple weapons were fired. He didn't say how many suspects there were. No reports of arrest. The crowd of people enjoying the barbecue stampeded from the park as the chaotic scene unraveled. Police are pleading with the public to help track down the shooters. Well, good luck. The mayor said you have an obligation to make sure you make your voice is heard because your family member could be the next Felicia or Tyesha. One woman owned an event planning business that put on private events. One person said she didn't deserve this. She was a loving, caring, outgoing person. It's just sad. The other woman worked with kids at Rochester's Recreation Center on Carter Street that focuses on youth programming. The city's Commissioner of Recreation, Shirley Green, said Tyesha was dedicated to her job and was known as Mama Bear. The kids loved her, and she loved the kids. So 2 women killed. There's so many shootings that are happening in Rochester. Quite a few shootings, too, that are being reported in places like Syracuse and Buffalo. Here in Binghamton, we do have our share of gun violence, but nothing approaching the level as some of the gun violence that's been happening in other upstate New York cities. It's 11:49 on WNBF. On a different topic altogether, if you follow our Twitter feed at Binghamton Now, perhaps you saw the photo I posted of the legendary Pat Mitchell dipping into his work. The photo was from 50 years ago in the Binghamton Evening Press, and the caption says, helping his workers man the ice cream barricades, Raymond Pat Mitchell scoops out a handful of his products. Nice photo by photojournalist Don Black, the same man who captured the beautiful image of Vice President Nelson Rockefeller extending a finger of goodwill to some Harper College students in September 1976 at Broome County Airport. So Don Black was a multi-talented photojournalist back when newspapers were allowed to have photographers. Yeah, I remember. It's good times. So that's a great picture. That was in the Evening Press on July 29th, 1974. It brings back a lot of memories because, as you probably have heard too many times on this program, when I had my paper route, when I delivered the Evening Press and the Sunday Press, Pat Mitchell's Ice Cream Shop at the corner of East Main Street and Vestal Avenue was right pretty much in the middle of my paper route. So especially in the spring and summer and the fall and winter, I would stop in to get some sweet sustenance so I could deliver the other 35 newspapers. So it's a nice memory of that black and white photo that appeared in the Evening Press half a century ago. The Endicott Scoop. Should have called him the Endicott Scooper. Pat Mitchell. What a guy. I wish they'd bring back Pat Mitchell's ice cream. I keep having this dream, this recurring dream, that somebody, obviously Pat Mitchell is no longer with us. He left us some decades ago. But I know someone has the capacity to bring back Pat Mitchell's ice cream. No, not me. Don't look at me. One thing I can tell you about Pat Mitchell's ice cream, this is part of the inside story since I delivered newspapers to the second floor apartment above his ice cream shop. The one thing I can tell you, because I, even as a proud newspaper carrier, I was inquisitive. I always was curious. Not that I was a garbage picker, but I couldn't help but notice every week in the trash there were a lot of empty containers. I think they were 5-gallon containers of Crowley's ice cream mix. So that was the secret. Not the only secret, because Pat Mitchell used a lot of special flavorings, natural flavorings for his ice cream. His wide array of ice cream, different flavors. But one of the key things that made it great compared to some of the other competitors, he always used the best ice cream mix from Crowley's in Binghamton. And it was at least 14% butterfat, or whatever they call it. I don't know. Milk fat, butterfat. I don't know. So he didn't scrimp when it came to buying the ice cream mix. So, and he didn't have a huge ice cream making operation. I think he had only one machine, and it wasn't that big, but it was pretty much always operating. So at any given time, at Pat Mitchell's, they pretty much always were in the process of making one flavor or another. I tended to alternate between butter fudge nut and mint chip. Occasionally I would show a little bit of shall we say, go on the wild side and get something like black cherry or something different, or pistachio, but usually settled for one of those basic flavors. Good times. Pat Mitchell. Great ice cream shop. He bought that, when he bought the shop, I believe, in the 50s, from the originator of the ice cream shop. Pat Mitchell bought it, and the ice cream shop apparently originally was nice, but then Pat Mitchell took it, enlarged it, and before long, it became a local destination. One of the interesting things, actually, that photo I mentioned that was in the newspaper 50 years ago, along with that photo was an article that Pat Mitchell's Ice Cream had been designated as one of the 12 best ice cream places in the United States by some magazine that's no longer with us. But so Pat Mitchell was quite happy that this magazine that was fairly well known at the time had included his ice cream shop as one of the dozen best ice cream shops in the nation. And yet he was modest based on the interview with the article. He just basically said, hey, try to make the best ice cream I can, and that's what I do. Here's the weather forecast from News Radio WNBF and the National Weather Service. Partly sunny this afternoon with a chance of showers developing. The high 87. Tonight, could get quite a bit of rain. Showers and thunderstorms. Low 69. Rainfall between 1/2 and 3/4 of an inch possible. Partly sunny tomorrow with a chance of showers and thunderstorms. The high 84. And the outlook for Thursday, sunny with a high of 89. Right now in downtown Binghamton, it's 79. That's 26 Celsius here at News Radio, WNBF. Hazardous weather guidance. Scattered showers and thunderstorms this afternoon and tonight may produce heavy downpours with the potential for localized small stream and urban flooding. And also later in the week, Wednesday, Friday, and Saturday, there also could be periods of heavy downpours as well. So that's sort of the weather pattern that we're going to be shifting into, from some nice calm weather over the last few days over to more humid and more stormy weather over the next probably 3 or 4 days, the way it looks now. That's our program for today. I'm Bob Joseph. Hope you have a great afternoon.